We don't shrink the shape of thought or sand the edges of what we sought. Every silence.
The next global race, or the current global race, is not for oil. It is not for gold. It is not even for data. It is for something more powerful, and that is the ability to compute. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Echoes of Change Culture in Flux podcast. I hope you are all doing well and that you had a great weekend. So today we start this week with another short take. So welcome back and let us dive right into it. During the week, the last week, meaning between July 6 and July 12, Europe witnessed several important developments that reinforce its ambition to strengthen artificial intelligence infrastructure and to reduce its dependence on foreign computing capacity. One focal point was the RACE summit held in Paris, France from July 7 to July 9th, where technology companies, investors, and policymakers discussed the next phase of AI development. Rather than focusing only on new AI application, many discussions rather centered on the physical infrastructure needed to support artificial intelligence. For example, data centers, high-performance computing, semiconductors, networking system, and energy supply, to name only a few. And during the same week, several other companies announced on expanding in Europe. For example, the infrastructures plan. One of them is Cerebras System, who announced in Paris on July 9th that it would expand AI computing capacity across Europe, beginning with infrastructures in France and later on extending to Norway and Finland, bringing advanced AI computing closer to European users. At the national level, let us look at the national level. At the national level, Italy also advanced its own digital infrastructure strategy. The state-controlled company, for example, Post Italians, continued its effort to acquire a controlling position at Telecom Italia, TIM, with the objective of creating nationally controlled cloud system, telecommunication infrastructure, and distributed computing capacity capable of supporting future AI application. So these developments build on broader system investment announced earlier this year, like at the beginning of 2026, that included SoftBank commitment to invest, for example, up to 75 billions in AI data center capacity in France, a project strongly supported by the French government as part of its strategy to position France as one of Europe's leading AI hubs. Taken together, these are not isolated announcements. They illustrate a broader European effort involving government, technology companies, and investors to expand the physical infrastructure that artificial intelligence requires. You can find all the sources, meaning the links where I had this information, in the description of this video or in audio format if you're listening in audio, or you can also find them on my page on LinkedIn, X, as well as Facebook. So now I want us to look at who does it affect? Who do these changes affect? From my point of view, the immediate impact is being felt by a relatively clear group of actors as well as investors, and that would be, first of all, technology companies building AI models and cloud services. These include companies developing large AI platforms, cloud infrastructure, semiconductors, and specialized AI hardware. Their ability to train and to deploy increasingly capable AI systems depend directly on access to computing power. Second of all, we have the European cloud and telecommunications providers, and these you can find them in each country. For example, company operating data centers, fiber optic networks, as well as cloud services. They will play an increasingly important role as more AI computing capacity is located within Europe rather than abroad. And third, we have the European government and public institutions. For example, countries such as France, Italy, Norway, or Finland are already involved in projects aimed at strengthening digital infrastructure, while the European Union continues to support a high high-performance computing and AI initiatives as part of its broader digital strategy. And fourth, yes, we have university and research institutions. Why? Because greater access to advanced computing enables faster scientific research, more sophisticated simulation, and collaboration across disciplines that previously required computing resources available not only to a handful of institutions but to many more. And then fifth, we have businesses, of course, across nearly every sector, right? Like it's not one sector that is affected by this, but I would say nearly every sector is affected. For example, manufacturing, finance, healthcare, logistics, retail, education, agriculture, to name only a few, and professional services are all expected to benefit from AI systems capable of improving productivity, analysis, and decision making. The creative economy like entertainment, music, and so on is also directly affected by, for example, writers, journalists, filmmakers, musicians, designers, and software developers increasingly work alongside AI systems that assist them in the research, in drafting, in editing, in image generation, and coding, and so on. And finally, of course, the individual citizen is also affected by this. Most people will encounter this development, for example, through data centers or semiconductors factories, but through also everyday digital services, for example, the search engines, the translation tools, online education, workplace software, navigation system, and customer support. Although this investment may initially appear to concern only the technology sector, their influence extends far beyond it, I think. For example, regionally, Europe has always faced the challenge of strengthening its technological competitiveness while maintaining also its long-standing commitment to privacy, transparency, and digital rights. Globally, nearly every country is now also confronted with the same question. One of those questions can be, who owns computational capacity? Who controls the platforms? And perhaps most importantly can be, who shapes the system through which now knowledge, communication, and increasingly even decision-making are produced. And again, the link are to be found in the description of this video or audio format if you're listening in Apple and Spotify, and also on my LinkedIn page as well as X and Facebook. But now let us deep dive into it by analyzing this from a cultural lens, which actually interests me the most. At first glance, last week's announcement appeared to concern only artificial intelligence, for example, the data centers and computing power, but I think they point to something much larger. This is not simply a decision or an advancement on technology. It's actually about the infrastructure through which culture itself increasingly operates. Throughout history, even every civilization has relied on infrastructures that allowed people to coordinate with one another. You remember, this is a season number 1 of Echoes of Change Culture in Flux. For example, roads connected cities, printing, presses spread ideas, telegraph compressed distance, electricity extended productive hours, the internet connected billions of people across continents. Each of these systems did more than just improve efficiency. They actually changed how society organized themselves. They altered who could participate, how quickly knowledge could travel, and how trust was established, as well as how institutions evolve. Infrastructure has never been culturally neutral. It quietly shapes actually the possibilities that were available to a society. In this specific case, artificial intelligence introduces something historically unusual, and I would like us to really pay attention to the following. For perhaps the first time at a civilizational scale, societies are investing in infrastructures that does not simply transport information, but increasingly participate in producing the information itself. And that distinction deserves our attention, because Roads, for example, when people started or human beings started building roads never suggested where to travel. Electricity never decided what should be manufactured. The internet, although it connected billions of people, but never initially generated the ideas on behalf of the people. So artificial intelligence increasingly assists in writing, summarizing, translating, coding, designing, composing, and analyzing. In other words, the infrastructure is no longer only carrying culture, but it is beginning to participate in culture. And that changes the relationship between humans and the system they build. Culture has always emerged through countless human interaction, conversation, for example, disagreement, education, storytelling, journalism, scientific research, artistic expression, to name only a few, and everyday experience. But today, many of those interactions increasingly pass through algorithmically mediated environment. What do I mean by that? I mean, we search through AI, we learn with AI, we translate with AI, we write with AI, we create with AI, and the list goes on and on. The question is therefore not simply whether artificial intelligence becomes more capable or has become more capable. The deeper question at this level, I believe, is what happens when the environment through which societies create shared meaning increasingly include non-human participants. This is only the first part of this take. The second part follows right after, or the whole video is also available on this platform. So you can watch either the whole video or you can now follow the link and listen to the second part. See you after.